In every city, there's a place the world forgets. A street where secrets breathe and ghosts never sleep. That's where she disappeared. Her name was Lena Hayes. Quiet, gentle, untouched by the darkness of the world. But darkness had been watching her for a long time. His name was Rafael Cruz, the kind of man whose name people whispered, not spoke. He ruled the city's underworld with silence, not noise, and eyes that remembered every sin he'd committed. They said Rafael had no heart left, until he saw her. It happened one evening. A chance glimpse through the rain, a soft voice, a smile that didn't belong to his world. Something inside him moved, something he thought had died years ago. And that's how obsession began to feel like fate. The night he took her, the city was asleep. No one saw the black car stop. No one saw the men move like shadows. Only the rain remembered. When Lena woke, she was surrounded by quiet, soft lamps, dark wood, and a storm outside that refused to end. Fear filled the air like smoke. But Raphael's voice was calm, deep, and steady. Not cruel, not loud. He told her she was safe, that she'd stay for 1 year. A year to make her see what he felt. And if she didn't, she'd be free. But freedom felt like a word she didn't believe anymore. Days passed in silence. He never touched her. He never crossed the line. But his presence was everywhere. The scent of his cologne in the hallway, the echo of his footsteps after midnight, the way his shadow brushed the light under her door. He left her books, flowers, notes without names. And every night, from somewhere deep in the mansion, she heard music, low, broken notes from a piano. It was always the same song. Sad, unfinished, like a heart trying to remember how to beat. She told herself she hated it. She told herself she hated him. But hate started to sound a lot like confusion. Because monsters weren't supposed to play pianos at 3 a.m. They weren't supposed to whisper apologies to no one. They weren't supposed to look at you like you were the only light left in a ruined world. And somewhere between the fear and the silence, something began to change. Sound, soft wind, distant waves, the faint echo of a piano playing in the background. Time moved differently inside Raphael's world. Days didn't pass, they lingered. Each sunrise felt like a question, and every night ended with the same silence. At first, Lena counted the days, marking them secretly on the wall behind her curtain. She told herself she was counting down to freedom. But somewhere along the way, she stopped counting. The mansion no longer felt like a cage. It felt like a place holding its breath, waiting for something to change. Raphael still spoke little. But the quiet between them was no longer cold. It was full of unspoken things. Sometimes, she'd catch him standing by the window, eyes lost in the rain. Sometimes he'd leave a cup of coffee outside her door, just the way she liked it. Little things. Small, human things that shouldn't have mattered, but did. And then came the night the storm broke the power. The lights went out. The mansion disappeared into darkness. Only the sound of rain and thunder filled the air. When she stepped into the hall, candle in hand, she found him sitting at the piano. No guards, no weapons, just Raphael, alone, playing the melody she had heard every night since she arrived. He looked up, their eyes met, and for the first time she didn't see a criminal. She saw a man haunted by his own story. He said nothing, and she didn't run. They just stood there, two strangers who had stopped pretending to be enemies. From that night on, something invisible began to grow. Not love, not yet, but something close enough to hurt. He started showing her the parts of himself the world never saw. The books he read, the painting of his mother in the corner room, the garden behind the house where he planted white roses, her favorite color, though she had never told him. He was careful, always, as if he knew one wrong word could send her running back into fear. But hearts don't ask for permission. They learn, they bend, and one day they surrender. Lena found herself waiting for his footsteps in the corridor. For the sound of that soft piano. For the way he said her name, low and careful, like he was afraid it might break. Sometimes, she smiled when he wasn't looking. And sometimes, when he caught her smile, he'd look away, because gangsters don't know what to do with peace. One evening, she asked him quietly, "Why me?" He didn't answer right away. He just looked at her, the kind of look that could fill pages. And then he said, "Because you reminded me what it feels like to be alive." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The silence said enough. And in that silence, love, slow, forbidden, and inevitable, began to take root. Love changes people, even the ones who swore they could never change. Rafael Cruz, the man who once ruled fear, had become quiet. He smiled now. He laughed sometimes. He touched life as if it were something fragile. And Lena, the woman who once dreamed only of escape, had stopped dreaming of the outside world. Because the world she wanted was already there. They spent days walking through the garden he had built for her. White roses everywhere. A sea of forgiveness and hope. She would read to him. He would listen, eyes closed, as if her voice could wash away every scar. What began in fear had turned into something no one could name. Too deep for words, too sacred for reason. And then, one morning, he gave her a ring. Not in a grand way. Not with the world watching. Just the two of them under a sky that looked like peace. He said softly, "1 year is over. You're free now."